hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we did the political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Paget Maynard.
All right, we got a lot to cover, man. But here, we keep seeing these white supremacists, or whatever you want to call them, attacking black people.
That's exactly what they are.
And the thing is that, you know, we get these politicians and all the other people talking about, oh, they come in from all these other places, but it's the most dangerous is right here in the U.S.
Well, you got to look at the motivation for these shootings. What motivates these people, typically young people, white males under 40, to go out and commit these mass murders? We've seen them, first we saw 9 dead in South Carolina.
Yep.
Then we saw, as memory serves, 16 shot at the temple in Pittsburgh, targeting Jewish people.
Yeah.
Then we saw 23 shot dead in Texas, targeting primarily Latino people.
Yep.
And now this recent attack this past weekend, we saw 9 shot dead at about maybe 10. I think it was 10. Now that I think about it, 10 shot dead, 13 shot overall by a white supremacist in Buffalo, New York, who traveled 2.5 hours by car to get there. A young man who was radicalized by online chatter on one of the 4chan sites, and decided that it was a good idea for him to buy an AR. His father helped him modify it. The gun was replete with white supremacist sayings on the barrel, so we know his motivation in the short term. But where's all this coming from in the big picture? And I think you need look no further than a big piece of your corporate media, and that's hate radio.
Yeah.
You know, the Rush Limbaughs, may he rest in hell. The other right wingers on the local AM dials, which dominate radio. You can't get progressives on AM radio, but that's a topic for another day. And then, of course, Fox News. Tucker Carlson and all his mediocrity has risen to the #1 cable news show, commentary show in America, and his foundation is based on this white supremacist theory called the replacement theory that says blacks are going to
outlast.
No, they're going to out have babies to the whites, and Jews are in this nefarious plots with blacks to bring in a bigger population of minorities and take over the country through the birth rate. And this is actively being foisted and forwarded onto these white supremacists by Tucker Carlson, by the Republican Party. You can see it with Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. You can see it with Elise Stefanik in New York. You can see it with candidate after candidate running on this great replacement theory that says you're in danger out there because these black people are nothing but breeders, and their Jewish handlers want them to outnumber us because they can control the blacks. They can't control you because you're too smart, and we want to make you aware of this danger. And so a lot of naive people, a lot of hateful people, they pick up this stuff and they run with it. And again, the Republican Party is front and central on this effort. The Republican Party, a political party, major political party in this country, and then of course Fox News and that whole right-wing hate radio sphere is what's responsible.
Well, see, the thing is that they've been crying this for the last 30 years, and finally now they got it the way they want it, you know. And the thing is that the Republican Party, they're not running on anything that means anything.
Nope.
They're running on what you just said.
Fantasy.
You know?
They're telling their people that despite 63 to be precise, court cases, many of them decided by judges appointed by Donald Trump himself. You're talking about 63 court cases. You're talking about numerous recounts and validations of elections in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Arizona, all over the country. Despite all that, Georgia, best example. Despite all that, it wasn't that the democratic process worked the way it was designed to, despite the fact that you saw Republican operatives say this was the most secure election that we've had in our history. They don't want to accept it.
Oh, no.
So rather than accept the truth, they come up with this theory that the election was stolen, by George Soros. They don't have to say Jew. They just say George Soros, and people get the message.
Oh,
And these black people willing to risk their freedom by voting 2 or 3 times. And what's ironic about it, Ahmad, is we've seen 7 or 8 cases come forward of certified, investigated voter fraud, and in each and every case, it's been a Republican who voted twice. In fact, the former guy's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, was caught voting, registered in 3 different
three
different
states.
districts. So 3 different states. So what are you talking about here with this voter fraud and replacement theory? You're talking about what Frances Cress Welsing, the PhD, may she rest with the ancestors, wrote about in the 80s, early 90s. I forget when her book came out. But she's talking about fear of genetic annihilation. Because the human race, I don't care if you believe in Adam and Eve or Joan and Steve, or if you just believe in science, the first human beings, the first Homo sapiens sapiens, were melanated like you and I. And through time, through adaptation to environment, through isolation, we've had people mutate into phenotypes. Now we identify one phenotype as Asian. We identify one phenotype as black. We identify another phenotype as European or Caucasian. We've got all these labels. We're all the same creature scientifically, but by dividing us up into these camps, and people who call themselves Caucasians, who call themselves white, have been able to organize themselves into a group of people who now dominate the world through death, domination, and destruction. And now are afraid of this genetic annihilation on how they perceive it, which really is just a natural, inevitable outcome of human experience. They're afraid that more and more melanated people are going to be on the planet than non-melanated people, and this is how they react. I don't know why they think they're going to shoot their way out of this or press their way out of this. It's a scientific inevitability, and it has nothing to do with why you don't have a job, why your schools are no good, why your roads aren't paid, why you don't have good wages. It has nothing to do with any of the real problems on your plate, but you're distracted. And you love this great replacement theory because it makes your hatred bone vibrate.
Already the hatred's there, and then with this, it makes it, we got to do something.
Resonates.
You were saying, Patrick?
Unfortunately, I think it shows the lack of education. I don't want to say total ignorance, but some ignorance is there. And instead of trying to learn, they prefer to spew out all this hatred and all these false theories that they're using to justify their behavior. Their behavior, the way they're dealing with what they see as themselves being soon a minority, is to try to shoot their way through it and kill out the other people.
Well, the thing is that when you already got this hate, all these other things can come into play. That's what that's my theory on it. It's like you already got this hate, so anything else it makes it swell up more.
Well, I want to quibble with one thing Paget said, and that's that it's ignorance and lack of education. I see Harvard Yale, Columbia educated Republicans. Some who went to undergrad and graduate school at these elite Ivy Tower schools, which is supposed to be the best that we can do in education. And we see them out there running on it. It's not that they're ignorant. It's not that they're ignorant.
No.
It's that they see this as a way to raise money and to get votes. And their constituents out there, some of them are ignorant. Some of them just hate black people.
Yeah.
They just plain and simple hate us on sight.
Yeah.
And until we recognize the fact that we are in danger every moment, every waking day of our life, we are in danger from these people. Unless and until we recognize that, we're going to continue to be caught off guard by some of the things. Not necessarily what people do, because these mass shootings, as often as they happen every week in the United States. Yeah. Some of them aren't motivated by race. Some of them just are motivated by people who are frustrated and angry and dissatisfied with their own lives.
Yeah.
And for example, we saw one in California this past weekend, where an Asian man went to an Asian church and shot that up.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, he was held down and hogtied and prevented from killing more people. But there's a lot of hatred out here, to your point. Yeah. But this thing that's being motivated and promoted by the elite on the right wing of the political system in the United States is despicable, and it's very dangerous. And they're going to keep on messing around until we have a mass shooting coming from both sides. I would go so far as to say right now we're living in a low intensity civil war. Just based on the words and the actions of politicians. And if it gets to the point where it's no longer low grade, it becomes medium or high intensity, we're all in very danger. And we've all got children and grandchildren and loved ones. We love people individually, as I do, who are melanated and non-melanated. That you could point to as belonging to any type of phenotype you want to name. You want to talk about Hispanics, or you want to talk about Caucasians, or you want to talk about African descended people. I love people in all those categories.
I do too.
But I also recognize that one of those phenotypes presents an existential threat to my life and the people that I love. And what do you do about it when it gets to that point where you can't depend on the political system or the authorities, the police, because the police are, we've talked about this on the show many times, Paget, about how the police and the armed services are effused with these white supremacists, been deliberately recruited into them. A process that was started in the 1940s in LA to bring in Southern white deputies into Los Angeles to control the black population. So this has been going on for a long time. It's reaching the point now where we are all in serious danger.
And as we talked about before, that's the reason we have policemen. Policemen was for to hound the blacks.
Slave patrols. That's just slave patrols.
So you're saying then, Dennis, what do we do? It looks like fight or flight. Which one should we take? And it's now going to be, some people are going to take the fight, some going to take the flight.
Where you going to run to?
And it could come down to what you said. It might be a low grade now, but it's going to escalate.
Where you going to run to?
Where you going to run to?
Where you going to run to? There's nowhere to run.
And I could run back to the Caribbean.
But look. Here's what I'm saying.
But even there, you're not safe.
I know.
We've been here 500 some years, and we're going to run to where?
I'm glad you made that point, Ahmad, because this great replacement theory postulates that these good, hard-working white Christians were here and everything was sunny and fine, and then here come all these melanated people ruining their environment, ruining their lives. Let's set the record straight, and I can use my own family for that. My grandfather, not my great-grandfather, my father's father died in 1963 when I was 5 years old. He was 102. If you can do rudimentary math, you understand he was born enslaved. And his history, the oral history that he passed down to my father and my aunts and uncles who've all transitioned, our ancestors now, spoke of his grandfather being enslaved. So that takes you back at least, let's say, 45, 50 years. So if we're talking about a man who was born in 1861, who can recognize ancestors that were here in 1810, not long after this land became a nation, we're talking about people who have been here pretty much since this nation was formed and beyond, way before it was formed. And we've got Europeans coming off the boat, going through Ellis Island, learning to speak English, and then looking around one day and being dissatisfied at their lives and decided that you and I,
we don't belong here.
We don't belong here, and we're just here to replace them. Man, we built this. The reason why you have streets to travel on, an airport to land in, a school to go to, clothes on your back and food in your stomach, is because we did that work.
Even the White House.
All of it. We built Washington, D.C. So if you want to talk to me about who's replacing who, maybe you ought to look in the mirror and ask what you've done to contribute to this country's status as it stands now. But you know, nobody asks that because it's really an irrelevant question. If you come here and you're a citizen and you go to work every day and you pay your taxes, you should be free to live the way you want to live, and whatever contribution you make to the public at large, to the country at large, is pretty much predicated on your abilities. Now you have people who are suppressed and oppressed, you have people who are marginalized, you have people who are shot on sight, and it ain't them.
No.
So Tucker Carlson and Elise Stefanik and Ron Johnson and all these other right-wing talking heads and politicians, they know exactly what they're doing. And I'm telling you, when you see them, you should see somebody who's threatening your very life.
You were saying, Patrick?
You know, Dennis made a solid point there. And we got to really understand, we are not the late comers. Okay? We're here from before. Matter of fact, I remember this white guy said to me one day, you know, you all are the original peoples. We are the mutants. But the general thing is that we are the problem, not they. We don't have a problem. No. We love everybody.
No.
We love all peoples. But some people cannot live in harmony with others who don't look like them. They don't care where you come from, what nation, whatever. As long as you don't look like me, you are a problem, and I have to get rid of the problem. And that's part of why we have all this going on.
You know, I was talking to somebody about the thing that's happening now, and I get a chance to pay close attention to it now because I go to Myers. And there's not a lot of blacks who go to Myers and Mason. And I notice you got some of the little kids, when they see a black, they kind of ease back towards their parents and everything. and that's the parents teaching them right away.
Ahmad, I can tell you, man, I have seen people during the day and had long conversations with them while I'm wearing my suit and tie. And then I go to Myers or Kroger's or wherever in a t-shirt and jeans, and they don't recognize me. And if I come off an elevator or I turn a corner, I've seen people almost jump out of their shoes on sight at me because I'm the big black threat. And I'm thinking to myself, it amuses me. I laugh a little bit when it happens inside. Like, we just had donuts this morning. You know, I'm your buddy. We talked about our children's future a few minutes ago. Now you're afraid of me. I understand where that's coming from. But if you understand where it was really coming from, you would understand I'm the one that needs to be jumping out my shoes. I'm not the threat. I'm the one that ought to be afraid. You know, the history, you know, and it really amazes me, Ahmad. You know, I'm an amateur historian, and one of the things I'm reading right now is on the Punic Wars, which were between Carthage, North Africa, and a brand new Rome that was attempting to become an empire. And they're fighting for control of the Mediterranean. the people of Carthage, being North Africa, and we're talking 900 BC, were melanated.
Yeah.
And of course, the Romans were not melanated. And you never read in any of the contemporary accounts of battle, all the way up until finally when Hannibal took his elephants through the Alps with an army made of people who would later be identified as Portuguese, and later be identified as Spaniards, and later be identified as Burmese in North Africa, and later be identified as just Africans. Went through the mountain, came into Rome, and won 19 straight battles before they finally lost the ultimate battle back in North Africa and Carthage. But you never read where the Romans thought of these people as less than, dumb, inferior, not as advanced. You go back in history and you read what Pythagoras, the so-called father of math, said, when you read about what Socrates and Aristotle and Plato had to say about their teachers, their instructors, who taught them philosophy, who taught them mathematics, who taught them science, chemistry, biology, etc. They were African people, and they were never referred to as anything other than our teachers. It wasn't until about 500 years ago that racism became codified. And it became, well, a little bit over 500 years now, it became codified into a way to separate us from the rest of humanity and diminish what we'd ever accomplished, and even go so far as to say, well, Egypt's really not in Africa, and it must have been white people who built those things. And forget the fact that Pythagoras himself said, I studied in Africa for 22 years, and they told me I had to go because I couldn't learn anymore, but he made the Pythagoras theorem. I mean, it's ridiculous, and people buy that in, and you'll hear Tucker Carlson talk about our accomplishments in humanity. What have they ever contributed? We contributed everything that you stand on.
Listen,
go ahead, Patrick.
As far as Tucker Carlson is concerned, that man is a lost cause. He is fighting so hard to be relevant, and he's totally irrelevant. Tell him, I say, shut up.
You know what is relevant about Tucker Carlson? That paycheck he cashes is relevant to him, and his impact on society is relevant to us. Because what he does is make what happened in Buffalo this past weekend possible. That's how he's relevant. And you know, it's to the point now where, you know, you and I've talked many times about you have young black men hating themselves and hating each other because they don't know their history. So unless and until we learn who we really are and where we came from and how this whole thing was set up, down from how you learned how to track the sun and the moon in the sky, to how you find yourself believing in a monotheistic God. All of these things came from Africa thousands of years before there was an England or France or Germany or Italy or Spain or Portugal. They didn't exist. But those people who are descended of those phenotypes will look at you on the site, think you're dangerous and inferior because of these lies that they've been taught.
And one of the things, man, that angers me is that, I'll just take for an example, and we just talking, but I was in Vietnam in 66, 67. Vietnamese people was like, not second class, that was fourth class, you know, where they had bushes for the house, okay? Bushes, pieces of tin or whatever they could get to make a house, okay? The place where they went to the wife's room was just a ditch, okay? Now, these same people are here and in the U.S., and they look down on us, you know. They're afraid of us.
Don't say.
See, that's what angers me. That really angers me, because not only them, but a whole bunch of these other people that come to this country, and then they can look down at us. Oh no, I'm scared. I'm afraid of them. I don't want to be around them. You see what I'm saying?
That's the power of the narrative. That's the power of the myth of white supremacy. And don't diminish the impact that television and Hollywood has on these people. Because if you go overseas and turn on the TV and they're showing a movie, you can bet your damn last dollar that the depiction of the black man or woman on that movie being shown in I don't know, Tokyo, Beijing, in the Philippines, in Turkey, in Greece, they're going to show an ignorant, violent black man who's either a buffoon, a clown, or silly, or some kind or some type of dangerous, violent villain. That's who we are to them. When they come here, and then they read the headlines, and they see that the underclass has become violent towards each other, and they say, well, that's where the threat is. Well, okay, you can believe that if you want to, but the people who really have presented danger to you are people you may not recognize.
Right.
But you know,
you just may not recognize them.
How much time we got, Pat?
About
3 minutes.
Go
ahead.
What you said there a while ago about the Vietnamese and so on. This is part of the teaching that goes on here. I am from the Caribbean. When we come here, oh, you're different from the blacks here. The Africans come in, oh, you're different from those. So they're trying to sort of separate us, showing divide,
absolutely,
and this kind of thing needs to stop. How? When? It's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a long time before it ends.
Well, you know, like Dennis said earlier, it's a thing going on now where any kind of way that they can divide the blacks up, you know, because we see a lot of, and I know a lot of Hispanics, but we see a lot of them kind of, you know, staying back a little bit and everything. So we look at all of these different races out here, and we are the only one that I won't say in the gun sight, but something like that.
Well, I think if you look at priorities, we're probably the top priority when it comes to people who hate and want to eliminate or at least diminish the power of a certain group. And there are other phenotypes which make up minority populations here in the United States which are taught to fear us. My point is, we're not your threat.
Right.
We're not the ones who are telling you where you have to live. We're not the ones telling you where you can go to school. We're not the ones telling you if you can get a loan. That's not us.
No.
It's not us who are telling our constituents that you're a threat to our very existence. You're an existential threat to our ability. It's not us doing that.
Moving out of the air and everything.
Well, and picking up guns and shooting them on sight. So the whole idea of these marginalized people pointing at each other is just an old tactic of divide and conquer.
Right.
We see it here. You see, it used to be, it's not the case anymore, but you had gangs in Southern California, the Bloods and Crips and their affiliates, who would kill each other on sight. Over what? Over property that you don't even own.
Right,
Over the ability to say that I'm bigger and badder than you. So again, man, I say it, and I say it like a broken record. Unless and until we learn our history, our true history, not what we've been, the crap we've been taught in school, and get some self-esteem from it, we're going to continue to be in a position where we're unable to help ourselves.
That's so true, and we could go on and on, but we ran out of time. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and we catch you right down the next block for more Street Talk. Peace.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.